Hey there, welcome back to Story Slices, where we slice through the best Reddit tales just for you. Let's dive right into the first story. The first one is the Tittle story, and it starts like this. I've always considered myself a pretty easygoing person. Live and let live, you know? But there's one thing I take seriously. My weekend barbecues. For me, there's nothing better than firing up the smoker, cracking open a cold one, and spending a lazy Saturday tending to a pork shoulder or a rack of ribs while friends and family hang out in the backyard. That's why when my wife and I were house hunting last year, a good outdoor space was non-negotiable. We spent 6 months looking before we found it, our dream home. It was at the edge of a nice suburban development, the last house on a quiet street, with our backyard butting up against a small wooded area that gave us privacy and the perfect backdrop for what I had planned. This is it, I told my wife when we first toured the place. I can put the smoker over there, build a prep station here, maybe even add a small outdoor kitchen eventually. She rolled her eyes but was smiling. You and your barbecue obsession. The previous owners had already built a nice patio and fire pit, but I had bigger plans. The price was right, the location was perfect for our commutes, and crucially, the property wasn't part of the nearby homeowners association. Now, I should explain, I'd lived in an HOA neighborhood before in my 20s, and let's just say it wasn't a good fit for me. Got fined for leaving my trash can out 12 hours too long when I was on a business trip. Never again. So during the buying process, I specifically confirmed with our real estate agent, the seller, and the title company that our property was exempt. The development had been built in phases, and our section, the last 6 houses on our street, had been added later and never incorporated into the HOA. You're totally free and clear, our agent assured us. You can paint your house purple with yellow polka dots if you want. I didn't want that, but I did want my dream outdoor cooking space without some committee breathing down my neck. After moving in, we spent the first few months getting settled and meeting the neighbors. Most were great. The couple next door with 2 kids who were always chasing each other around the yard, the retired guy across the street who was constantly working on his garden, the young couple 2 doors down who were expecting their first baby. By spring, I was ready to start on my backyard project. I dropped a significant chunk of change on a professional-grade smoker, built a custom prep table, installed proper lighting, and even put in a small refrigerator that could hold drinks and meat waiting for the grill. My wife joked that I was spending more on the outdoor kitchen than we did on our indoor one, and she wasn't entirely wrong. Once everything was set up, I started my weekend ritual, slow-smoking brisket, ribs, pulled pork, you name it. The smells would waft through the neighborhood, and it wasn't long before neighbors would coincidentally stop by to say hello when the food was almost ready. I didn't mind, I always made extra. Some weekends, we'd have impromptu gatherings with neighbors bringing sides and drinks while I provided the main course. Man, this is the best brisket I've ever had, the guy from 2 doors down said one Saturday, helping himself to seconds. How do you get it so tender? Low and slow, I explained. 12 hours at 225 degrees. The secret is patience. Life was good. I'd found my happy place. Then, about 6 months after we moved in, it happened. I was in the backyard on a beautiful Saturday morning in June, getting ready for a big cook. I had a pork shoulder and 2 racks of ribs prepped, and the smoker was just coming up to temperature when I noticed someone standing at our back gate. She was a middle-aged woman with a stern expression, designer sunglasses perched on her head, and a clipboard in hand. I'd seen her around the neighborhood but hadn't spoken to her before. "Good morning," I called out, wiping my hands on a towel. "Can I help you with something? Are you the homeowner?" she asked, not bothering with pleasantries. "I am," I replied, walking over to the gate. Without introducing herself, she thrust a piece of paper through the slats of the fence. "This is for you. The Homeowners Association has received multiple complaints about your outdoor cooking activities. You're in violation of Section 8.3 of the Covenant regarding outdoor cooking facilities and excessive smoke." I looked down at the paper, which was a formal notice on letterhead from the Neighborhood Homeowners Association. It cited a rule against permanent outdoor cooking facilities and activities that produce excessive smoke, odor, or noise. The notice demanded I cease all such activities immediately and warned of a $100 per day fine for continued violations. I looked back up, confused. There must be some mistake. "My property isn't part of the HOA," she gave me a condescending smile. "All properties in this development are subject to the covenant. Please read the notice carefully and comply with the requirements. The board meets next Thursday if you wish to appeal, but I should warn you that these rules are strictly enforced." Before I could respond, she turned on her heel and walked away, leaving me standing there with the notice in my hand, completely baffled. I went inside and showed my wife. "Can you believe this?" I asked, putting the notice on the kitchen counter. She read it and frowned. "But we're not part of their HOA, we specifically checked before buying." "Exactly. I'm going to call our real estate agent." Our agent confirmed what we already knew. Our property was not part of the HOA and never had been. They have absolutely no authority over you, she assured me. Just ignore it. But it didn't feel right to just ignore it. I decided to write a polite but firm response clarifying the situation. I went through our closing documents, found the property survey and plat map showing the HOA boundaries, and attached copies to my letter. I explained that while I appreciated community standards, my property was not subject to their rules, and I would continue to use my backyard as I saw fit. The following weekend, I fired up the smoker as usual. Around noon, just as the first rack of ribs was ready to be wrapped, I heard voices at the back gate. The same woman from before was now accompanied by two men in polo shirts, all wearing identical disapproving expressions. "Sir," she called out, "didn't you receive our notice? You need to shut that down immediately." I walked over, wiping my hands on my apron. "I sent a response earlier this week. My property isn't part of your HOA. I checked thoroughly before purchasing." One of the men stepped forward. "I'm the president of the board. There seems to be a misunderstanding. All properties in this area are part of our community and subject to our rules." "That's simply not true," I replied, trying to keep my tone civil. "I have the property records and plat maps showing that the last 6 houses on this street, including mine, were never incorporated into the HOA. I specifically verified this before buying." "Those documents must be outdated," he insisted. "Our jurisdiction extends to all properties in the development." "That smoker," he pointed accusingly, "is a violation, and the smell is affecting property values." The woman nodded vigorously. "My house is 2 streets over, and the smoke drifts right into my yard. I have potential buyers coming tomorrow, and this smell will definitely impact their impression." Ah, so that was it. She was trying to sell her house and thought my barbecue was going to cost her money. "I understand you're trying to sell your home," I said, "but that doesn't give you authority over my property. I've verified the legal boundaries of your HOA and my property is outside them. I'm not violating any city codes or ordinances." "We'll see about that," the board president said. "Expect to hear from our attorney, and those fines will continue to accumulate." They left, and I went back to my ribs, but the encounter had left a bad taste in my mouth that even my special dry rub couldn't fix. Over the next few weeks, things escalated. The HOA sent more notices, each with increasing fine amounts. They called city code enforcement on me 3 times. Each time, the inspector came out, checked my setup, and confirmed I wasn't violating any ordinances. "Your smoker meets all the setback requirements," the inspector told me during the 3rd visit. "And there's no city code against barbecue smoke in residential areas as long as it's not excessive or constant. From what I can see, you're just cooking on weekends and doing it responsibly." He shook his head. "Between you and me, someone's really got it in for you." It didn't stop there. Signs appeared along the edge of the HOA properties facing my house. "Clean air zone" and "report smoke violations" with the HOA contact information. Some neighbors reported that the HOA board had been spreading rumors about me, that I was operating an illegal restaurant, that I was violating health codes, even that the smoke contained dangerous chemicals. Ridiculous. Most of my immediate neighbors were supportive. "Those HOA people are out of control," said the retired guy across the street when he stopped by one day. "They tried to fine me for my bird feeders when I first moved in. Had to show them my property wasn't in their jurisdiction either. They backed off eventually." "How long did it take?" I asked. He shrugged. "About 6 months of harassment." "Great." The worst part came when a friendly couple who lived within the HOA boundaries invited us over for dinner. Over dessert, they lowered their voices and told us something disturbing. "We were at the last HOA meeting," the husband said. "They're telling everyone that they're in negotiations to have your section of the street added to the association." The board president said it was just a matter of time before all the holdout properties would be forced to join. "That's completely false," I said. "They can't force us to join." "We know," his wife replied. "But they're telling this to prospective buyers who come to look at houses in the neighborhood. They're saying the entire area will soon be under HOA control, so the buyers shouldn't worry about the few non-conforming properties." This was going too far. They were now actively lying about my property to affect real estate transactions. I decided it was time to get professional help. I found an attorney who specialized in real estate and HOA disputes. She wasn't cheap, but after hearing my story and reviewing my documents, she assured me I had a strong case. "This is clear harassment," she said. "They have no jurisdiction over your property, and they know it. What they're doing now, spreading false information about future HOA expansion to prospective buyers, could potentially be considered tortious interference with real estate transactions." At her suggestion, I installed security cameras covering my property, particularly the areas where HOA board members had approached me. I also began documenting every interaction, keeping copies of all notices, and recording dates and times of incidents. My attorney also suggested I reach out to other non-HOA homeowners on my street to see if they were experiencing similar issues. Turns out, they were, though none as severely as me. The HOA had been systematically pressuring the outsider houses, seemingly hoping to either force compliance or make our lives difficult enough that we'd give in and join voluntarily. Through these conversations, I learned something interesting. The board president had been trying to expand the HOA territory for years. He apparently believed that having complete control over the neighborhood would increase property values, and, not coincidentally, his own status and power. But the most valuable information came from my next-door neighbor, who had been in his house for over a decade. Over beers one evening, he mentioned that the board president had built a substantial outbuilding in his backyard 3 years ago. Funny thing is, my neighbor said, I'm pretty sure he never got permits for it. It's way bigger than what the city allows without special approval, and it's closer to the property line than regulations permit. This piqued my interest. Do you know where his house is? Sure, it's the big colonial with the circular driveway on the main boulevard. The next day, I casually drove by. Sure enough, there was a large elaborate shed/workshop structure visible in the backyard, much larger than typical garden sheds and definitely close to the property line. I mentioned this to my attorney, who agreed it was worth looking into. She filed public records requests for any building permits issued for that address in the past 5 years. When the results came back, our suspicions were confirmed. No permits had been issued for any outbuildings. Meanwhile, the harassment continued. The HOA escalated to sending collection notices for the fines they claimed I owed, now totaling over $3,000. They even had their attorney send a threatening letter, though it was notably vague on the legal basis for their jurisdiction over my property. It was time to fight back. My attorney prepared a comprehensive cease and desist letter documenting all the harassment, the false claims about HOA expansion, and the fact that they had no legal authority over my property. We sent it by certified mail to each board member individually, as well as to the HOA attorney. Simultaneously, we filed complaints with the city about the board president's unpermitted structure, with the County Consumer Affairs Department regarding the HOA deceptive practices, and with the State Real Estate Commission concerning the false statements being made to prospective home buyers. To make sure the entire community understood what was happening, I decided to host a neighborhood barbecue. I invited everyone, HOA members, non-HOA residents, even the city code enforcement officer who had been out to my property multiple times. I printed informational handouts showing the actual legal boundaries of the HOA along with copies of the relevant property records and plat maps. The day of the barbecue arrived, and I fired up both my smokers at dawn. By noon, the mouth-watering aroma of slow-cooked brisket, ribs, and chicken had spread throughout the neighborhood. People started arriving, most bringing side dishes, drinks, or desserts. The turnout was better than I expected. Nearly everyone from the non-HOA houses came, along with a good number of HOA residents, including several who apologized for their board's behavior. Even 2 former board members showed up, both expressing dismay at how the current leadership was operating. This isn't what an HOA is supposed to be about, one of them told me. It's meant to maintain common areas and ensure reasonable standards, not harass people who aren't even members. Conspicuously absent were the current board members, though I'd made a point of sending them formal invitations. The board president, in particular, had a good reason to stay away. City inspectors had visited his property the previous day regarding his unpermitted outbuilding. During the barbecue, I briefly addressed the gathered neighbors, explaining the situation without vilifying anyone. I emphasized that I respected the HOA right to govern their properties but expected the same respect for my property rights. Many HOA members seemed genuinely surprised to learn that the boundaries didn't include all houses in the area, and that their board had been making false claims about future expansion. The event was a turning point. In the days that followed, I heard that there was significant discussion within the HOA community about their board's actions. Several members called for a special meeting to address the situation. That meeting took place 2 weeks later, and while I wasn't present, my friendly informants within the HOA filled me in on what happened. Apparently, it got heated. Many members were upset about the board using their dues to pursue what was clearly a personal vendetta. Others were concerned about potential legal liability if my attorney pursued action against the HOA as an entity. The most dramatic moment came when someone brought up the board president's unpermitted outbuilding, which by then had been officially cited by the city. He would either need to obtain after-the-fact permits, which seemed unlikely given the size and setback issues, or modify/remove the structure at considerable expense. So let me get this straight, one member reportedly said. You're harassing someone outside our HOA about smoke from legal barbecuing while you've built an illegal structure in your own backyard? And you're using our money to do it? The fallout was swift. The board president resigned the following day, citing personal reasons. The woman who had first approached me, who turned out to be the board vice president, also stepped down. Without their driving force, the campaign against me quickly fizzled out. A week later, I received a formal letter from the HOA attorney. It acknowledged that my property was not within their jurisdiction, apologized for the misunderstanding, and assured me that all notices of violation and fines had been rescinded. It also included a carefully worded statement that the HOA has no current plans to expand its boundaries, and would correct any inadvertent misstatements that may have been made to prospective buyers. The letter didn't mention that the now former board president had been ordered by the city to either tear down his backyard structure or reduce its size by half and move it farther from the property line, at an estimated cost of over $15,000. It also didn't mention that he had taken his house off the market after failing to get his asking price. Some neighbors speculated that the whole crusade against my barbecue had been to eliminate what he saw as an obstacle to selling his house at a premium. With the immediate battle won, I didn't stop there. Working with the other non-HOA homeowners on my street, we formed what we jokingly called a Freedom Association, a loose alliance dedicated to protecting our property rights. We pooled resources to consult with an attorney about creating binding legal documentation that would prevent our properties from ever being incorporated into the HOA without unanimous consent from all owners. We also worked with the City Council to propose an ordinance requiring explicit written consent from property owners before their land could be included in an HOA jurisdiction, along with clear public recording of HOA boundaries. The ordinance passed 3 months later. As for me, my weekend barbecues continued and even grew in popularity. The following summer, I hosted the first annual neighborhood barbecue competition, with categories for ribs, brisket, and chicken. Ironically, many of the most enthusiastic participants were from within the HOA, including 2 members of the new, more reasonable board. The former board president eventually sold his house, at significantly below his original asking price, and moved away. I heard he went to a neighborhood with no HOA, which seemed like a wise choice given his apparent inability to follow rules while simultaneously trying to enforce them on others. Looking back, I'm glad I stood my ground. It would have been easier to give in or even to respond with equal nastiness, but instead, I chose to defend my rights firmly while still trying to be a good neighbor. In the end, I not only protected my property and my beloved weekend barbecues but also helped establish clearer boundaries, both literal and figurative, that made the entire neighborhood a better place. These days, when I fire up the smoker on Saturday mornings, the only comments I get from neighbors are about how good everything smells and not so subtle hints about whether I might have enough to share. And sometimes, when the weather's nice and the smoke is rising perfectly straight into the clear blue sky, I raise my tongs in a silent toast to the power of knowing your rights and standing up for them, and to the universal language of good barbecue, which eventually brings most people to the same table. The best part? I've since expanded my outdoor kitchen even further, adding a wood-fired pizza oven that's become the centerpiece of our Thursday night gatherings. No permits required, no HOA approval needed, just good food and good neighbors enjoying life together. And that, my friends, is the sweetest victory of all. The next one is entitled People Story. I'm 27M, in a fight with my wife, 28F. We've had fights before but not this bad. I'm at a loss on how to proceed. For context, we're college sweethearts married for almost 6 years. We have a daughter, 4F. Our relationship was never perfect or without challenges. We faced some family opposition with cultural differences, but we've made it work. She's my first love and my best friend. My wife works in corporate. Her job has annual work retreats that last for about a week. This year was in Vegas. I usually arrange my work schedule and tag along with her, and we make our own trip out of it. We couldn't this year. Our daughter gets major anxiety traveling long distances. We're working on it, but she wasn't budging, and we decided to choose our battles. So I stood behind and held down the fort at home. The change of plans was a bummer because the trip was part of us reconnecting as both a couple and as a family. My wife's work hours have taken a toll, and her work/life balance leaves much to be desired. We entertained the idea of her skipping the retreat. Attendance is optional, but it's generally frowned upon if you don't, and my wife's making connections in her field. She grew increasingly weird. We have a system if either of us is away for extended periods. We keep in contact. For the first day or so, she was herself, but she grew distant. I'd even text her about important stuff and be left on read while she claimed she never saw my text. Whenever we talked, she was rushing me or our daughter off the phone. These were all times she wasn't involved in retreat activities. We were supposed to have a mini birthday celebration for our daughter over FaceTime. Our daughter was excited. It was something my wife promised her because the retreat overlapped her actual birthday. But my wife backed out because she had people up to her room after a seminar. It was like she wanted my permission to break her promise to our daughter. I told her I wasn't offering that nor making her keep her word. She said I wasn't being fair, and this was a networking opportunity. They were business-oriented and wouldn't understand her stepping away for family time. I said her decision is her decision, but she'd have to explain it to our daughter. She promised her that she'd rain-check the following day. Our daughter didn't understand and cried. My wife ended up hanging up and leaving me to comfort our daughter alone. That whole incident rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't like it. She didn't keep her word for the rain check either. She was documenting the retreat on social media. One coworker, 23M, was almost in every pic/video attached to her hip. In one pic he had his arm too comfortably around her emo. He's a recent hire in my wife's department. She was asked to oversee him. I don't like the guy. He doesn't know boundaries. Once, in response to a work assignment, he texted my wife that she's exactly the kind of woman he needs to keep him in check. My wife had brushed it off. She feels bad for him because he's not fitting in. She took him under her wing during his first retreat with the team. If I'd questioned, she'd say she was tired or networking. There was always something. But I've seen her at these retreats. This wasn't like her. She was just off. The day before her return home, she complained about a bruise on her neck. She stressed it was a bug bite. I didn't actually see the bruise until she came home. I instantly thought it was a full-on hickey. She kind of brushed it off after making a big deal of it over the phone. I didn't push because our daughter was present. But when I was able to confront her, she clung to her bug bite claim. When I kept pushing, she asked what I was trying to imply. I outright said I believed she had a hickey, and I didn't believe she was being honest with me. We had it out then. She was offended and pissed at the accusation. Infidelity has always been a sore topic. Her family has a history of infidelity. So we had a pretty bad fight, and she accused me of looking to pick a fight due to the incident with our daughter's birthday. I told her it had nothing to do with that and everything to do with a hickey on her neck. The fight ended in an impasse. We're still not recovered. She swears it's a bug bite, but I'm not convinced. I've always trusted my wife. I never doubted her, but this bruise doesn't look like a bug bite. It looks like a hickey. I only feel more strongly when I consider how distant and weird she was during the Vegas retreat. Now she's wearing turtlenecks ever since, and we're caught between arguing and her dousing our daughter and me with affection. Communication usually prevails for us, but not now. I think my accusation pushed us to a new level of argument. I'm at a loss here. I really need outside perspectives. How do I move forward? Update I, 27M, wanted to give an update and thank everyone who reached out. The outside perspectives helped. Things are a roller coaster. I'm trying to process. It took a while for my wife, 28F, and me to have any real conversation about the bruise on her neck. We were stuck between arguing and her showering our daughter, 4F, and me with affection. I rarely saw the bruise because she was turtlenecked up, but I did note the healing process from reddish purple to yellow. There wasn't any more discussion about the Vegas retreat. She made it clear she was done talking about it and that she shouldn't need to defend herself to her husband. I told her she could do whatever she wanted, but I was done being treated like an idiot, and I wasn't sharing a bed with someone I couldn't trust. So I moved into the guest room. Communication stopped. The silences were palpable. Even our daughter noticed. I'm not proud of that. I try keeping her out of fights. My wife came to the guest room one night and asked if we could talk. I could tell she'd been crying. She said she hated the way things were between us. She felt she was losing me either way. I told her I needed complete honesty. She confessed she hooked up with that coworker, 23M, on our daughter's birthday. The hickey was from him. She was lost in the heat of the moment and didn't realize he was sucking so hard on her neck. By her account, they made out while doing some on top of the clothes stuff and then he went down on her. It stopped there because he called her by a nickname that I affectionately call her. It snapped her back to the reality of her actions. She went to splash water on her face and saw the hickey. The guy made light of it and made a joke about the hickey being her souvenir. She blew up on him and kicked him out of her suite. Part of the reason she was avoiding me was out of guilt. She said she's coming clean because she doesn't want to hide things anymore. I asked her why she cheated. What was it about that guy she deemed worth risking everything? She claimed it wasn't him specifically, nor is she unhappy with our marriage. She doesn't really know how to explain it, but a part of her feels broken. The more she looks in the mirror, the more she sees her dad, 57M. A cycle of being consumed with work, distant from child, and the infidelity he put her mom, 55F, through. She said her family never talked about anything openly and how when she was growing up, my mill never addressed anything with her. I said her parents didn't make her cheat. She chose to party up with a guy who constantly disrespected our relationship. These were all her decisions, and she at any point could have chosen our family. She agreed. She wants to blame her parents but realizes this is on her. She apologized for cheating and for entertaining the guy's advances. She said she'll do whatever it takes to repair. Go to HR, quit her job, counseling, anything. She wants to make everything right. I told her I don't know what right looks like or if that's possible for us anymore. I knew we had our problems, but I thought there wasn't anything we couldn't talk out. She insisted we still could talk it out. We didn't have to give up on us. She tried giving this rally cry for our relationship, but I felt very numb. I said I didn't recognize her. Not just the betrayal of our vows but also how she treated our daughter. She's like a stranger. She feels she failed as a wife and mom, but she loves us both beyond words and wants our life together and our family intact. I told her I couldn't give her the answer she wanted and thought we needed to separate and reevaluate. She didn't want separation. She felt we should stay together in our home, but I told her a separation was happening. Either she was leaving the home or I was with our daughter. She consented to leaving so as to best not uproot our daughter so much. She asked for our daughter not to be taken away from her. My wife's staying with my in-laws. I know that's difficult in itself because she doesn't have the best relationship with her parents. One of the hardest parts is the shift for our daughter. Right now, she believes her mom's just busy with work per usual. She hasn't questioned it too much. My mill called the other day. She made no excuses for my wife, but she's advocating for us to work through it. She told me times when she heard my wife describe me as the anchor she always wanted. She believes there's something worth fighting for if I'm open. Despite some family opposition we faced throughout our relationship, my mill was always a supporter of us. I'm even more at a loss. I never imagined this kind of betrayal from my wife. She was my safe place. I feel numb yet broken. I'm in love with her. That hasn't changed. But I don't see myself, her, our relationship, or our family the same. Everything's more tense because it's fresh. I think this period of separation is for the best. I'm not sure about divorce. I haven't let myself fully go there. I'm not set either way. I don't know where things go from here, but I'm focusing on our daughter and taking things one step at a time. I feel that's all I can do right now. Thanks again to everyone for the support. It's much appreciated. Update 2. Thank you again to everyone. I, 27M, couldn't respond to every message, but everything's appreciated. I wanted to provide an update. Things have been a little chaotic with the new status quo after my wife's, 28F, affair, but I'm taking everything one step at a time. My wife and I explained the separation to our daughter, 4F, in simple, concrete terms and reassured her that we both still love her without going into the reasons behind the separation. Our daughter's always been an observant kid, but I don't think the separation has hit her yet. She doesn't see the difference between her mom not being home and her usual busy with work. During visits, she's more distant towards her mom and clings to me. My wife attempted to play with her on this toy set, but our daughter wasn't having it and shouted at her mom that she didn't want to play with her. The disconnect between my daughter and wife hurts in a way I'm still processing. I knew my wife's work/life balance took its toll. Pre-Vegas, we were supposed to be working on reconnecting, but just how fractured things are is a lot more apparent. Our daughter interacts very little with her mom and becomes quiet around her like she does with strangers. I feel at her age we, as her parents, should be who she's closest with and not this disconnected from her mom. Their dynamic is something I've been reflecting on. My main focus is making sure my daughter's okay through all of this. As far as between my wife and me, she's advocating for us to reconcile. She's expressed she wants to work on our marriage not solely for our daughter but because she loves me. Her rally cries for our relationship are still falling flat for me. I can't give her what she wants right now. I told her I wish she would have given herself these rallies before cheating. She's adamant about the affair timeline and what occurred with the co-worker, 23M. They connected because she felt bad he wasn't fitting in. He kept flirting and treating her like royalty. It started feeling good on the rougher workdays. They had an emotional affair even though she didn't label it as such at the time. The EA turned physical during the retreat. She dissociated from her life back home while away in Vegas. She still swears they had sex only once. The hickey came from foreplay, and while giving her oral, he called her my nickname for her, which shook her out of it. She snapped at him about his immature attitude with the hickey and then kicked him out of her suite. She thought she could quietly end things and salvage our marriage. I asked her if she wore her wedding ring during sex with him. She confessed that she did. Knowing this hurts like hell. To me, our wedding rings were a physical symbol of our love, commitment to our vows, and our bond. She tarnished our rings. I haven't been able to wear mine. It never hurts any less. There are just new levels to the hurt. She admits to contributing to blurred lines. She's now changed her number and claims to have cut contact with the coworker. She reported the affair to HR. The company has suspended both of them while they investigate the extent to which the affair impacted the department. Coworker relations violate their policy, and it doesn't look good for my wife in terms of power balance since she was the guy's mentor. They're also calling into question if she gave him favoritism. Some have suggested I reach out to the coworker. I've considered it, but I'm not in a place to. I feel a lot of anger towards him. He knew exactly what he was doing with the hickey and nickname stunt. I wouldn't get anything from him except trouble. He's not worth it. I'm choosing to focus on my daughter. I've chosen to pursue marriage counseling. This isn't under the promise of reconciling but as an assist in working through this separation as healthy as possible for our daughter. I'm still numb in a lot of ways. I never thought this would be how my marriage and family turned out. I've seen it happen to others. I've heard stories. I thought I knew what it was like. But it's nothing compared to dealing with it yourself. I don't feel like the same person anymore. I don't know how everything will pan out. It's an uphill battle, but I'm trying to show up to the battle. It's the best I can do right now. Thank you to everyone who has reached out. I appreciate the support, really. Update 3 things aren't easy. I don't expect them to be. I don't regret the decision to separate. It was necessary. In many ways, I feel like my hand was forced with the betrayal and all the lies. I'm still finding my footing. I don't put people on pedestals, nor did I ever believe my wife's 28F, and my relationship was perfect. I just didn't think we'd end up like this after all this time together. While HR were still conducting their investigation on my wife and the co-worker, 23M, my wife resigned. Apparently she received pushback. Some of the top brass were pulling for her to stay on. I wasn't too surprised because she's always been a yes employee who gets the job done. She worked with the company back as an intern in college. She said she wants to prove that she's taking every possible action in cutting ties with the guy. I don't know what the investigation result was for him. I don't care. TBH. It's not a concern of mine. We've officially begun marriage counseling. It's a new experience overall. I didn't know what to expect. We're mostly discussing our relationship's journey up to now, the affair, and what we want from counseling. My wife's position on how the affair began remains consistent. She can't really explain it precisely. She wasn't unhappy with me, but a part of her feels broken. The undivided special attention became like a drug to her. The convo kind of shifted to my in-laws, 57M/55F, my wife's family life, and the impact of my Phil's infidelity. She believes she's a reflection of her dad and how she is as both a parent and a spouse. As a parent, she tried convincing herself she was better than him by showering our daughter, 4F, with gifts in light of her lacking presence. As a spouse, she tried convincing herself she was better because the affair wasn't physical pre-Vegas. She thought as long as they didn't do anything physical, then she was better than her dad. That was something she told her affair partner while in Vegas actually. They could hang out as long as it didn't turn physical. I feel like she had so many chances to choose differently. To choose us and our family, but she tossed our daughter and myself to the train tracks. Our relationship wasn't enough to stop her. Our wedding rings weren't enough. And our crying daughter wasn't enough. She chose herself every time. She was selfish. She mentions the nickname thing, making her snap back to reality as if it's supposed to make me feel better. It doesn't. I believe she only stopped at oral because she got off and had no more need to go further. I wasn't on her mind. Telling me that I was is like trying to put a band-aid on a gunshot wound. I didn't plan to say half of everything I did, but there was no going back once the door was opened during my turn to talk. She agreed and said she has no excuse for her actions. It's not her parents. It's just her. She swore that she loves me and our daughter and wants to fight for our family. I told her that the I love yous felt hollow now. She shut out our daughter and myself to give an intimate part of herself to her co-worker. She said she realizes how much larger than just the affair our problems are. She struggles connecting with our daughter and worries about messing her up, so she left the primary caretaking to me. She believes I'm better at it. She said that there's nothing she can say to change anything, but she wants to show change through her present actions. That's some stuff we've dug through in counseling. We're still in the early stages, but I believe it's aiding in communication through separation, which is more healthy for our daughter. Our therapist recommended individual counseling as a complement. It's something I'm seriously researching for myself. Not much has changed with our daughter since the previous update. She still doesn't feel there's a difference between her mom being home or not. I've watched her go from talkative and playful to instantly completely silent when her mom came by. I've scheduled her for play therapy. I don't know what to expect from that either, but I'm hoping for the best. My main goal is being present for her. I know I need to learn how to trust again in general. That's shot right now. Pre-Vegas, I never had a reason to doubt my wife. My trust was something she had as an irreplaceable partner. I've been betrayed before, but this one did a number in a way the others hadn't. I'm trying to stay afloat and focus on what I have rather than what I lost. I can't afford to get lost in myself. Thank you to everyone for the support and for sharing your own experiences. Talking about all this isn't easy for me, but I appreciate the openness. Are you hungry for more slices of stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss out on any videos. See you tomorrow at Story Slices.